Let it be known, the push to add the District of Columbia as a 51st state has taken another step forward, with a Democratic senator wasting little time in floating legislation now that a new administration is in place. Also, this week is a special week for the National Newspaper Publishers Association and the Black Press of America. It is our midwinter training conference. And if you don't know anything about ATTR/CM, we're going to tell you a lot more about it this morning. It's a rare heart disease that affects mostly African Americans. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that at length during the virtual convention this week, which the public is invited to register, and you'll see it across the screen how to register, virtualnmpa2020.com. But let it be known, let's get right into it. Joining us this morning from the Washington Informer is James Wright, a reporter who has covered statehood extensively. And we'll also be joined shortly by our president and CEO, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. As you see, Dr. Chavis has arrived. Good morning, James. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, James, and
good morning.
Very good.
So let's get right into it. We're gonna get to our midwinter training conference shortly, but let's talk about DC statehood. James, you've covered it extensively. What's the latest?
On Friday, Senator Thomas Carper introduced a bill which is in the process of being identified as S51 for 51st state in the Senate, which is a companion bill to D.C. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton's bill, the Washington, D.C. Admission Act. He formally filed the bill on Friday. Now, here's what's important about this. Usually, Senator Carper, as well as Delegate Norton in the past, have introduced the bill later on in the session, but he did this on Friday, and the session, really, the 117th Congress, is about 2 weeks old. That is very unusual, and that's a good sign. Another sign is that he has gotten short of 40 co-sponsors, most ever this for the legislation, especially this early. And that is a promising sign, particularly since the Democrats now control the chamber in the Senate, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has made a commitment to put the legislation on the floor during the session. Now, our Mayor Muriel Bowser would like him to do it within the first one, but there are a few other things going on in the Senate right now, so we'll have to see how that happens.
Well, thanks, James, for that. Dr. Chavis, I want to go to you because, of course, you're in the district too. How important is statehood for the district, and this push for statehood? Do you see it prevailing?
Yes, I want to thank James for that breaking news for the NMPA this morning, and thank you, Stacy, for keeping Let It Be Known on the air early, every 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time each morning, Monday through Friday. It is historic. We need another state, and certainly the residents of the District of Columbia, the residents of Washington, D.C., have been paying taxes, but have not had voting representation in the Congress of the United States. So this is going to be great. I'm hoping that it will be expedited, and I'm glad it was introduced early in the 117th Congress, as James has alluded. Rest assured that the Black Press of America, our publishers from around the United States, are very concerned and will be advocating to make sure that all our citizens have representation as they pay taxes. No one should have taxation and then no representation. Also, keep in mind, if DC becomes the 51st state, that means there's 2 additional senators, 2 additional Democratic senators in the Senate chamber. So I think it's very strategically important that this happens as soon as possible. And that way the legislative agenda of the Biden-Harris administration can be further protected. But also Lord knows, the residents of D.C. James, I was back here in D.C. when we first got a semblance of home rule. You remember there was a time that D.C. could not even elect its own mayor. And then Walter Washington was the
That's
first
right.
elected mayor. And then, of course, I was there on the great campaign
Yes,
when the
yes.
Honorable Marion Barry ran for mayor. And then, of course, the rest is D.C. history. So I remember Calvin Rolock, the distinguished founder and publisher of the Washington Informer. I remember Francis Murphy, distinguished publisher of the uh, uh, Washington Afro, which is part of the Baltimore Afro, all campaigned valiantly over many, many years for DC statehood. So, yes, you can rest assured the Black press intends to weigh in on this issue. For us, this is a matter of inclusive democracy. It's a matter of fulfilling the promise of freedom, justice, and equality. So we're going to be on this case. This is good news. What a great way to start off the second week of the Biden-Harris administration.
Oh, absolutely. And James, you mentioned Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, and we were doing some calculations this morning. Not difficult, but this is the ninth presidential term that she's been on Congress, and we know that this has been her biggest issue. She's championed this. She's been the warrior in fighting for statehood for DC.
Absolutely. And we salute Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton because you also know that she's the one that introduced legislation to make sure that the Black press has equity in advertising of all the federal agencies. And part of President Biden's executive order last week on equity is going to require every federal department to report on how it is doing business with Black Americans, Latinos Americans, and other people of color who own businesses. And certainly that's going to be a positive effect for the Black press. But James, it's so good to see you. And James is also, he's kind of modest, Stacey. He's also been around for a long time reporting back in the day. And James, you should tell everybody how long you've been a journalist, James.
Since 1991, when I was a sports stringer for the Washington Afro under Francis Murphy. And then Mrs. Murphy promoted me in April 1993 to Capitol Hill reporter. I covered the Hill for the Afro-American newspapers, and a lot of my articles went on the NNPA. And in July 2000, I left the Black press to go over to the Post, and I came back in April 2005 with the Afro, and I've been working with the Afro and in the Informer since that time. I'm the Informer as a staff writer as of December 2018.
Very good. Well, congratulations. You have almost 30 years of nonstop.
Oh my goodness.
Using the power of your pen. As James Baldwin would say, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
And
sir.
finally,
Yes,
James,
yes,
James, before we let you go, James, one last thought on DC statehood. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is for in the House, Congresswoman Norton should introduce her bill, which would be the DC Admissions Act of 2021 in a few weeks. That bill already has 208 co-sponsors. It just needs 218 to pass. And so the prospects look super in terms of House of Representatives. I encourage the publishers and anyone on this listening now and watching now to please call your senators, particularly your senators. Please call your senators and tell them to support DC statehood. And it is important because just as Dr. Chavis alluded to, DC residents do pay federal taxes. They do serve in the military, and yet they have no voting representation in the House and none in the Senate to govern how that and those monies and those actions take place.
Well, thanks a whole lot, James, for your report. And we're going to continue to follow your reporting on this at the WashingtonInformer.com. And you'll see a lot of this on Black Press USA as well. James, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, and always good to see you.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you.
So Dr. Chavis, we talked about the Senate being 50-50 right now, and with Kamala Harris, the vice president, being a tiebreaker. But there's also this filibuster, and there's also the Democrats are now may have to, in the meantime, use reconciliation to get some of President Biden's agenda passed. As we see that there's still a lot of partisanship going on despite everything that has happened. How do you forecast this, Dr. Chavis?
Well, yes, I think that all of the priorities now that the Biden-Harris administration set, the stage is set, and I think the Congress is going to push the stimulus package and the other legislative priorities that the Biden-Harris has laid out. But first and foremost is to get the stimulus package to all of the residents of the United States who are hurting now, severely hurting, and businesses are severely hurting because of COVID-19.
Yeah, and as we segue, Dr. Chavis, it's a big week this week, and before I even get to that, let me just you mentioned equity. Well, on Wednesday on our program, Let It Be Known, we're going to have Dr. Ebony Hilton on, and in addition to keeping up to date on COVID-19, Dr. Hilton has long floated this idea that President Biden should consider a Secretary of Equity. And we're going to learn more about that from Dr. Hilton as she has a petition going for that. But our virtual conference, the virtual NNPA Midwinter Training Conference, virtualNNPA2021.com. Join the conference, Dr. Chavis. If you ask non-medical professionals about the different heart disease, the forms of heart disease, many probably could tell you things like coronary artery disease and
Yes.
different heart defects, but not many, including medical professionals, can tell you about transdirectin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM. It's a rare heart disease, Dr. Chavis, and we're going to learn more about that during the Midwinter Training Conference. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, thank you. ATTR-CM is a rare heart disease that disproportionately affects African Americans. And a lot of people have it and not even aware of it. And that's why getting your annual physicals is so important, no matter what your age, because you may have ATTR-CM and not know it. And so part of the Midwinter Conference, I'm so proud that the Black press, even during this pandemic, under the leadership of Karen Carter Richards, we're going to have our annual 2021 Midwinter Conference, but it's going to be a virtual NNPA 2021 Midwinter Conference. It's Midwinter Training Conference. And one of our training workshops and presentation is going to be on ATTR-CM. And we're so thankful for Pfizer. Pfizer is helping make this possible, where we're going to get into this disease. And we have a very famous sports legend that's going to be with us because he has a disease and he's going to share. And that's part of what we do in the Black press is raise awareness. We have to raise awareness around sickle cell. Now we're raising awareness around ATTR-CM. And of course, I'm glad Dr. Hilton will be with us on Wednesday as we raise awareness again about how devastating COVID-19 is on Black America. What we should do now that we're in the middle of what President Biden has just stated, that's going to get worse before it gets better. And we want to make sure it does not get any more worse because it's already terrible in Black America.
Yeah, and the conference is going to be packed with some great information. The theme of the conference this year is Black Press of America: Challenges, Responsibilities, and Opportunities Amidst COVID-19 Pandemic. So, Dr. Chavis, what else do we have to look forward to for the conference?
Well, everything is fine, and I think that we're going to have particular workshops to help our number of publishers to get in advance and to get with the digital transformation. We're going to continue to print our newspapers, but we also want to get additional revenue streams. And digital advertising as a complement to print advertising is so vital. So several of our workshops are going to be on that. And we have Michael Grant, who is a digital specialist for Google, who's now, we've just hired Michael Grant, Stacey, breaking news, for the NNPA as a digital specialist that will be helping a number of our publishers with their digital transformation. So it's going to be a information-packed NNPA virtual Midwinter conference starting this, where the board meeting is on Wednesday, January 27th, and then for 2 days, January the 28th and 29th, Thursday and Friday. And if you go to the website that's listed, that's streaming now across the screen, please register at www.virtualnnpa2021.com. It's going to be action-packed. We also got some exciting entertainment already lined up, and we'll be announcing the entertainment on tomorrow morning's show.
That sounds fantastic. And the NNPA, yes, we are a news organization, and there's a lot to be learned. But we also like our entertainment during our conferences, and it's always fun. It's going to open, and remember, you can register. It's free. There's no charge. It really kicks off on Thursday with greetings from our national chair and Houston Forward Times publisher Karen Carter Richards. Terry Jones, the publisher of the Data News Weekly in New Orleans, is the convention planning committee chair, and he will also have remarks, as well as yourself, Dr. Chavis, and Pluria Marshall Jr., the NNPA fund chair and the publisher of the Wave community newspapers, will also have some opening remarks on Thursday. But then we go right into it, right? General Motors, Pfizer Rare Disease, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Reynolds American, yes, and others like AARP, Wells Fargo, API, Facebook, Zillow, Nissan, UAW, and Zinger News, all going to be a part of our midwinter training conference. And so we are inviting the public to register at NNPA, virtual NNPA 2021.com. It's going to be a lot. The CDC will be represented, Dr. Chavis, and it's so important because you alluded to the COVID-19 crisis. We are seeing more than 3,000 people a day dying. We are still heavily into a pandemic, Dr. Chavis.
That's right. And in some areas of the country, Black people are dying 3 times the rate that whites are dying from COVID-19. So this is devastating. It's a matter of life and death. The state of emergency for Black America on COVID-19 is still in existence. And we need to do everything we can to get our people to wear masks, to wash their hands, to social distancing. And if you have an opportunity to take the vaccination to protect yourself and your family from this deadly COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, and again, just to plug Wednesday's show, Dr. Ebony Hilton, she who has become perhaps one of the better known African-American doctors in the country. She has taken the vaccine. She's had both doses, and she can give us an update on that too.
Absolutely. And she's also a leading member of the NNPA coronavirus task force.
Yeah, and really, and you say leading member because she's really been leading this voice toward vaccination. She's brought to light the inequities in healthcare, the inequities in the vaccine, because we know now that whites are being vaccinated at more than twice the rate, if not even 3 times the rate that African Americans are being vaccinated. And as she's pointed out, we're the ones that's been disproportionately affected by it, but yet we're not getting the vaccination. A lot of problems that the Biden administration has to tackle from day one. And he has, been right on the case, Dr. Chavis.
Oh, no question. I think that we now have a national federal plan to combat COVID-19. Since last year, in the last year of the Trump administration, there was no federal plan. He passed it off to each of the states. So anytime you have 50 different state plans, no federal oversight, no federal instructions and demands, that's the problem. There's uneven, there's disparities, there's inequity, there's inequalities. And who suffers when all that happens? Black Americans and many other people of color. I just heard a report last night about how many Native Americans are also disproportionately dying. Not because they want to die, they want to live. Everybody wants to live because they don't get the resources, they don't get the information. And there's been so much misinformation out there. And the distribution of the vaccine at the state level has not gone well. So we're going to deal with all of that as we begin our Midwinter Conference for the public at large this Thursday and this Friday. So please register. As Stacey has reported, it is the registration fee has been waived. We want everybody to attend, and we're building a database. That's another reason why it's important for you to register, because we want to get your email, we want to get your name, so we can keep you informed on a 24/7 basis with the Black Press of America.
Yeah, and for 194 years, the Black Press of America has been keeping the Black community informed like no other media outlet, and so we intend to continue that. Dr. Chavis,
and I just heard we're going to have a special message, a video message from now Vice President Kamala Harris. So you don't want to miss that on the morning of Thursday, January 28th.
Yeah, absolutely. The historic Vice President, groundbreaking Vice President Kamala Harris, and it's interesting, the misinformation, like you said, about COVID-19. Just yesterday, Dr. Anthony Fauci and Dr. Birx both said they were given constant misinformation from the previous administration, that they even were given PowerPoints that they were told or ordered to show that they knew was not right. Dr. Fauci said he couldn't stand behind at all. And, it just plunged us deeper and deeper into this.
In law, when you give out false information that impacts somebody's life or death situation, that is criminal negligence, particularly in the health field. So, I think that I know the impeachment trial about inciting the insurrection on January the 6th is going forward. But I believe there are going to be other charges, criminal charges, because it is criminal what is going on now with COVID-19. All this misinformation and disinformation is deliberate, Stacey. It's not just by accident. And so, the oppression, the inequality, and if I can use the term, which approaches the genocide of our people, continues.
Yeah, 25 million, at least 25 million Americans have now been diagnosed with COVID-19 overall since the pandemic began, and at least 400,000 deaths. And again, we have to qualify that by saying that we know of, because we know, especially early on in the pandemic, there was this push not to identify COVID-19 as COVID-19. There was this push to qualify or note someone's death as not being related to COVID-19, exactly. And particularly when it comes to the Black community. So misinformation is not something that helps in any way, of course, but it's not something that the Black press does. We've been on it. Dr. Chavis, you remember back in April, you declared a state of emergency. We did a big report, and we was the first to report that the virus was airborne.
That's correct. And we're going to continue to break news in the Black press. Again, as we begin 2021, I just want to thank all of our member publishers for the past year, for staying vigilant, for staying steadfast, and that's what the Black press does. When times get tougher, we get tougher. When times get rough, we get rougher. Nonviolently, we speak power to truth, and we publish power to truth. And that's what we're going to continue to do this year. But I also want us to celebrate the 190 year of the Black press since 1827. And you're going to hear more about that during the Midwinter Conference. So again, on behalf of Karen Carter Richards, our chair, our executive committee, our board of directors, and all of our member publishers, Stacey, we have 230 African active members of the NMPA, African American owners of newspapers and media companies now who are part of the NMPA. And we're going to grow and expand that number even more in 2021.
Yeah, and there'll be 4 workshops as well, training workshops A through D, and people should tune in because D includes our advertising director, Ron Burke, Los Angeles Sentinel editor, Brandon Brooks, and it'll also include representatives from Black Enterprise, Blavity, and Real Times Media. And Wells Fargo and Zillow will also be among those giving some messages to the Black press and what they plan to do in 2021. So it's an outstanding lineup that you, Dr. Chavis, our executive administrator, Claudette Perry, have worked so hard to put together, along with our chair, Karen Carter Richards, and Terry Jones. So people have a lot to look forward to. virtualnmpa2021.com. Again, it's free, no charge. Register, and as Dr. Chavis mentioned, registration is important because it allows you to be on the list so you can get information, timely and vital information.
All right, yes. 2021, the Black press is on the move. We're breaking news every morning, Monday through Friday, and we're letting it be known.
And let it be known, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. We will see you tomorrow morning, 7:30. Everybody have a great day.
Thank